wide receivers in a couple of weeks, John, but let's talk about the Buffalo wide receiver room here real quick, because that's another situation that you mentioned is a very difficult player and team to project. And that will also transition us to our next topic as well, because I know you have Curtis Samuel ranked 10 spots higher than consensus. You might have known me a little too long, John Paulson, to be doing something like that. But Buffalo wide receiver room, very much a overhaul from what we've seen previously, very much like a philosophical overhaul potentially going on offense there. How did you end up statting out these Buffalo wide receivers?
Yeah, this is a tough room. You did not put this in bold, so I was a little disappointed because I wanted to talk to you about Curtis Samuel and his upside in this offense and how you think this is going to sort of shake out. They've got
I couldn't resist.
They've got Keon Coleman entering, and he's the great unknown, right? And then you've got Curtis Samuel, who I name checked you in my draft note, and I said this is a longtime Matt Harmon favorite, and when longtime Matt Harmon favorites get promotions or have opportunity ahead of them, I definitely wake up and start drafting them a little bit earlier because he is a talented route runner and can get open. I think he'll be Josh Allen's best friend in this offense. He does have a built-in rapport with Khalil Shakir, who has shown some flashes here and there, and I guess he's having a pretty good camp. I can't remember if you liked him coming out of college. I feel like you did. Yeah. And then they've got, I guess, Matt Collins. I saw a tweet about Matt Collins as a deep threat. They got KJ Hamler. MVS is apparently fading already. So this is a wide open receiver room, tons and tons of targets available. And we can usually capitalize in these situations if we can, find the players that are going to step into those bigger roles. I love the fact that Curtis Samuel is versatile. They might hand him the ball a few times. He's being reunited with his offensive coordinator, who got a wide receiver 25 season out of him fantasy-wise. He's going, I think, wide receiver 45, something like that. If I remember correctly, he's going in the 40s. Unless I'm crazy. I just think there's too much value on the board with a known player like Curtis Samuel. I don't think he has like top 10 upside. I don't think that you're necessarily going to get a lot of players with that sort of upside in the wide receiver 4 ranks. So I'm happy to take him there if he's got wide receiver 2 upside. I think he had 1,000 total yards in that season with the offensive coordinator. So the question is, how many targets will Keon Coleman demand early? Is he going to be a target hog, or is this going to be a pick your poison for Josh Allen, more of a scheme-oriented offense and just kind of, what the Packers are running, where, they're not necessarily featuring any one player. Different guys are going to pop their heads up here and there. I think overall, my favorite player in this offense is Curtis Samuel in terms of who I'm trying to target in every single draft. I'm trying to get him in the 8th, 9th round as my wide receiver 4.
Yeah, I also have Curtis Samuel ranked 7 spots ahead of consensus. He's the wide receiver 51 in Yahoo drafts right now, 115th overall player. I do agree with you that the final point that you made there, my thought is that this is going to be a pick your poison offense for Josh Allen. I don't think one guy's going to have a 24% target share or something like that. I think it's an intentional move away from that in Buffalo at this point. I don't even think Kincaid is necessarily going to be that much of a target hog either. I think they're going to spread this thing around. And I'm so glad you brought up Matt Collins too, buddy, because I wrote about this Bills passing game probably about a month, maybe more than that ago. And the final section was, look, I know none of you want to hear this. Go ahead and skip this section. But one of Matt Collins, MVS, or Chase Claypool is going to play more than you think. And it's been clear Matt Collins in camp so far. He is going to be that sacrificial X receiver. He's not going to get a ton of targets, but he's going to play on the line, and he's going to allow them to do all these fun things with Samuel, with Shakir, who's an off-the-line slot player. And it's going to, I think, be good for Keon Coleman to be in those situations too. I just wonder if we could get a Chiefs situation here, John, where week 1 comes out and none of these guys have run more than 70% of the routes, and it's very, very spread out. And in that situation, like you draft Curtis Samuel, wide receiver 51 or a little bit ahead of that, who cares? Like, it's not going to make or break your season. It's not a big deal. But it could end up in a situation where that's problematic for projections on a week-to-week basis. The good thing is that I think all these players are good to some degree. Not in like Kansas City last year, all those guys were not good. So that would be the difference in the two situations.
They also have two tight ends that they want to play. You mentioned Kincaid, but Dawson Knox, they love him. If they're running 12, that's going to who's sitting, who's in the game, and who's on the sideline, playing 60% of the snaps.
Not to mention too, and again, this is something I wrote up in that piece from about a month ago or whatever. James Cook, also pretty involved in the passing game. He had a 2.4 average depth of target last year, led all players at the position with at least 50 targets. Only Cook and Saquon Barkley have an average depth of targets north of 1.0, 2.0 in the last two seasons. So he's the receiving weapon for them as well. So it is definitely a messy situation to project. All right, we're going to take one final break. When we come back, I'm going to get a few names from John, players that he has higher than consensus, besides the great Curtis Samuel, right after this.